What is up, everybody? It's your girl Jada Reeds here, back with another video. And today, as you guys can tell by the title, we are about to discuss, or I'm going to share my top 10 reads of 2024. But first, if this is your first time seeing my face or knowing of my existence, my name is Diamond. I go by Jada Reeds on this channel, and over here I like to do reading vlogs, book reviews, and everything in between. So if that is something that you're interested in, I think you should consider subscribing. Before we get into the video, I just want to send a huge hug to everybody that liked and commented on my previous video of my life update. I had not been that vulnerable on this channel ever. Even though coming on camera with no makeup on, without a bra on, in a t-shirt, pajamas, whatever, doing reading vlogs is a bit on the vulnerable side, but one can argue that that's sort of performative at the end of the day. So it just depends on who you're talking to. But that was an honest reflection of what my life had been like. And I just felt behooved to share. Not for nothing. It was also therapeutic to talk about it with you guys. And so I just want to say thank you. Although I have replied to the comments, I just want to say thank you again. Those comments warm my heart so much. I read every last one of them to Autumn, and Autumn sends warm, huge hugs to you guys as well. And we are just so grateful for you. I'm grateful for this channel. I don't know where I'm going with this channel. I've contemplated not uploading anymore. Not because I don't enjoy reading. I've read quite a few books this year and I'm very proud of myself. It's just that I don't know. I just want to explore other options and do other creative things. So I don't know where I'm going, but I have to round out the year, and I'll just think about what I'm going to do as far as next year with this channel later. But I'm excited for all the videos coming down the pipeline of everyone's favorite books and everything like that, and I just want to share mine. So we'll go get into all the other stuff later. But anyway, I just want to say thank you so much. And I appreciate you guys. And I love you guys so much. Like legit, I took a long time to respond, because every time I would open up the studio, I respond in the studio, YouTube studio app. Every time I would go in to read and reply, I would start crying because of the responses that I got and how loving and how kind you guys are. So that's what took me so long, and that's what's taking me so long now coming back to this channel, because you want to share what's going on in your life in hopes that people would understand where you're coming from and would respond to you, but it gets to being so overwhelming when people do. And so it's almost like kind of shocking that you guys ride with me so hard. It was like shocking. So anyways, thank you so much. Like, seriously, those comments got me through, especially the ones about me being a great mom, because for so often I feel like I wasn't, like I could control the sickness, and I know that I can't, but that's neither here nor there. Let's not go too deep into it. We're finally trying to turn over a new leaf. Don't let me get emotional now. So anyways, now I'm excited to go into my top 10 favorite or best books of the year. Okay, so I'm going to do a series of videos. So these are the top 10 books that I read physically. Although one of them I did read simultaneously or in tandem with the audiobook, I still read the entire thing physically. I never once listened to the audiobook without the book present, but I still read it physically. Every word, even though I was listening to the audio. But these are my physicals. Then we'll do audiobook. Then we'll do second in command, meaning those books that were top tier but they didn't make the list. Anyways, I just have all these different things planned. So let's just start off with my top 10 books that I absolutely could not stop thinking about this year. That's what this list consists of. These books were so good. I found myself thinking of these characters, the plots, everything, storyline, cinematics, the themes all year. And so it took me quite a bit of time to sift through all the books that I had read, some audio, physical, checked out from the library, and all of the ones that I absolutely love, I absolutely adore, I own them. So we're going to start from 10 and go down to 1. So book number 10, my 10th most favorite read of 2024 is Cold Mountain by Charles Frazier. Cold Mountain's published on January the 1st, which is so funny. This is a popular date as we go up the list or down the list. It was published January 1st, 1997 by Charles Frazier. And the publisher at the time was Atlantic Monthly Press. And look, it has a map. Oh, those books with a map. I learned a lot about myself. Look at the map. Beautiful map. I learned a lot about myself when I curated this list. And as we go through the list, you guys might see exactly what it is that I'm talking about. But Cold Mountain is a love story. It's an Odyssey retelling of Odysseus and Penelope, or where he was actually trying to go. I mentioned this book in my January reading wrap up of 2024, so you know that this book is one of my favorites if I read it almost 1 year ago. And I'm going through the list. I'm looking at my bookshelf, my red parts of my bookshelf. I'm looking at Storygraph. And I was like, Cold Mountain really stuck out to me. So this book is about Ada and Inman. Inman is, it starts off, so the chapters are, they're split narratives. So you have Ada speaking, Inman, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And they don't reach the point of these two people actually being in the same vicinity until you get to like the last third of the book. And so the story begins with Inman in the Civil War. And they're writing letters to each other. Inman's writing letters to Ada, and I think at some particular point he stops receiving her letters, but he holds on to certain things that she has sent him along with her picture. And so he just abruptly decides, I am about to leave the Civil War and I'm about to head back home to my love, my darling Ada. And it tells the journey of what he deals with and what he goes through on his way back home to Cold Mountain. Then you get the storyline of Ada and all of the things that she deals with and what she goes through. I never thought that I would love a story so much that is regarding a pivotal point in history that directly affects the nature of who I am and my ancestry. But I love this book so much. It was so well done. It was brilliantly written, wonderfully told. The writing is mesmerizing. And there's not one point in this novel that I question the character of the author. And that's very important to me and for me in my reading and on this journey of literature in general. If I have to question who I feel like this author is, I'm automatically going to probably stop reading the book, or I'm going to continue reading the book and I'm going to have a lot of things to say about it. So I think that I'm making wonderful choices as far as the things that I choose to intake and ingest. And so yeah, this book was phenomenal. I watched Alana Estelle. Look, you guys. That is our new friend. That is Sylvester. That is Autumn's new cat. Well, I have to say that's my cat too, but he belongs to Autumn, but he actually really loves me. He comes and cuddles me all the time. He wanted to make an appearance because he's a superstar. So anyways, I had already seen the movie when it first came out. I'm a big movie buff cinephile. I love movies, and I think I've seen this movie when it came out, starring Nicole Kidman and the other guy who's super handsome. I can't remember his name. People don't like the movie, but I love the movie. But the book came on my radar when I was watching one of Alana Estelle's first videos a couple of years ago, and she was just like, people don't write novels like this anymore, and she's absolutely correct. They don't. This book is absolutely worth your time, worth your energy, worth your effort. I think it's 445 pages. Let's see. I could be wrong. Okay. It's 356 pages. And because it's the hardback. And it's wonderful. It's great. It's beautiful. Like seriously, like I'm getting like butterflies talking about this book simply because of the way that Inman loved Ada and how Charles Frazier was able to convey and depict that through his writing. And so this was just an excellent book, packed with not suspense, but interesting stories and interesting characters. If you like a character-driven story, of a person going on a journey. I think you would really, really enjoy something like this. And it's not boring at all. So yeah, this is number 10 on my list, and I highly, highly, highly recommend it. Okay, highly. Let's see if you guys recognize what I'm saying or what I mean by I learned a lot about myself in curating this list. All right, so number 9, and the only reason why this book is sitting at number 9 is because there were just other books that I actually loved more. I did. And I feel a certain way about saying that because of the subject matter, but I did love them more. And also because this is kind of sort of riding off of, even though it's wildly different, it's a retelling. And I have another retelling here that hit a little bit more home for me. Anyway, it's going to be James by Percival Everett, a more recent read. I read this in October or November. I read this in November, and I absolutely loved it. It topped a lot of the other phenomenal books that are going to be in some of my other videos, and I had to add it to the list because it's just amazing. So, James by Percival Everett was released on March 19th, 2024. By Doubleday, which is still popular, by Doubleday, and it's by Percival Everett, who is wonderful. He's great. It is a retelling of Huckleberry Finn from the viewpoint of Jim, who of course changes his name to James, which is why this book is called James, and it is wildly different from Huckleberry Finn in so many different ways. And so what you find when you read this novel is Jim/James taking his power back. So of course it starts off the same way Huckleberry Finn starts off, where Jim overhears that he is to be sold to a plantation in New Orleans, and he decides to run away. And at the same point in time, Huckleberry Finn decides to fake his own death because he's being abused by his father, and he also runs away. And on the journey of Jim running away, he runs into Huckleberry Finn, and they go on this journey together. And there's also, of course, a journey, and there are a series of mishaps and unfortunate and fortunate events that occur throughout the novel, mixed with what we love so much about, or what people, I can say we because I've watched the movie based on the book Erasure, American Fiction. So it's mixed with what we love so much about the parody, or how Percival Everett parodies and makes fun of the ways in which African Americans or Black Americans are treated in America in general by their counterparts, which are white people. And so there's a lot that happens in this story that I don't want to tell because there's still so many of you guys who have not read it yet. But I'll just have to say that mixed with humor, there is humor in this novel, but for me, I didn't find it as hilarious or funny, but I understood those funny parts. But from the lens of a minority Black woman, I couldn't laugh at every part because it's just like, oh my God, this stuff just hits different because it's still true. In 2024, we're still dealing with the same shit. So I couldn't really laugh that much, but I could laugh so much at the ideas of, like, there's a scene in here where a character is just so intrigued by the fact that Jim is impersonating a Negro, you know, and he wants to touch Jim's hair because he thinks that it's a wig. He's like, this is a magnificent wig. It's so realistic. I just have to get a feel. And everything that happened prior to that and after, it's just like, some people would laugh, but it's like, it's really not that funny, but it's so interesting to continue on with it and see where everything is going. And so I just find it overwhelmingly intriguing how this book is being perceived or received by so many people. It is so interesting. I watched Percival Everett, you know, on those whatever that Poets and Coffee or Politics and Prose, I think it's Politics and Prose, where they go and they sit in the bookshop in New York and they do the interview, and Percival Everett's getting asked all of these questions by the host, and he asks him a certain question and Percival Everett refuses to answer that, because it's just like, if you don't understand what I'm trying to say via this novel, then you don't need to understand. I think that's basically what he was trying to say with it. Like, not how dare you ask me this, but it's just like, why would you? You know what I mean? Ask your friends. Find some black friends and ask them. It's like the white fragility thing. Like, I'm not here to make you understand what you do or where you come from or why your people are how they are. It is up to you to do the work and figure it out for yourself. Like, we're done playing ignorant. You know what I mean? If that makes any sense. But this book is great. It's phenomenal. It's also a historical fiction-ish, just like Cold Mountain. A journey is being had. There is no map, but it's such an Odyssey type of thing. You know what I mean? So let's see if we're catching on. So the next book that we are going to discuss is also an absolute favorite. I may not be able to do this book justice in explaining it also, but it is just another novel that I could not forget, that is continuously on my mind, that I'm always thinking about, and that is Titus Grown by Mervyn Peake. This was great. This was phenomenal. I think this is considered to be like a modern Gothic classic, along the lines of, or in the same realm of Tolkien. In a way, they're like in the same family of sorts, but completely different, and it stands on its own. So this is a part of a trilogy called the Gormenghast Trilogy, and this is book 1, Titus Grown. This book was published January 1st, 1946. It's not by Overlook, but that's who republished it. It's fantasy Gothic fiction. And I believe the main character is the castle, which is Gormenghast. But hey, one can argue that it's not. So this novel is about the birth of the title book, the character Titus Grown. He is born. The opening scene is him being born in this novel, and it actually ends with his first birthday approaching, his first birthday party. And it can also be considered a parody, or because it's not funny, but it could be considered a parody or the idea of the monarchy's existence in the UK, meaning, you know, Queen Elizabeth and all of those people and all that jazz, and how power and wealth and money is passed down, and how it doesn't make any sense, but this is the way things are done. And I feel like this is, I think I heard or read somewhere that this is Mervyn Peake's, not dissertation, but this is his, what's the word that I'm looking for? This is his rebel against the crown, against the throne, writing this story. So if you read this, think of the UK, think of the monarchy system, kings, queens, and all that stuff, and the things that goes on there, which a lot of that stuff is being revealed and exposed and has been for years. But this was written in this was published in 1946, so people have been feeling this way and been seeing these things. So the main characters are Sepulcrave, Prune Squalor, who else? Swelter, Flay. These are all workers that work within Gormenghast, which is like kind of like also its own city of sorts, and they are trying to work their way up or build their way up in power within this whole little system of Gormenghast. And there's just a lot of intriguing bits and pieces of this story. But I have to say, like I said, the main parts that I could not stop thinking about was the way that Mervyn Peake writes his scenes and the way that he like portrays or depicts the castle that is Gormenghast. Remember, in general, as a reader, you have to have a wild imagination anyway to be able to perceive or understand what an author is trying to give you. So in that, I feel like in thinking of that, he, as in Mervyn Peake, he's able to give you or give so much depth to a place that you have never ever seen before, and have you really wanting to like jump into the pages and be there and be with these people. That's why this book made it onto the list. I will say the story in and of itself is also a wonderful, magnificent story, but I love the atmosphere. The atmosphere is unmatched of any fantasy, gothic type story I've ever read. Its atmosphere and its description of this in this book makes it one of the best fantasy gothic books I've ever read in my life. And 2024, I'm looking forward to reading the second one in the series, which is called Gormenghast, which I heard is actually better than this. So I'm excited about that. But yeah, that's really that. I didn't give much of the story. It's a story that I think is worth your time. It's quite dense. And I will also add that although I do recommend this novel, it's not easy. It's not an easy story to read. Nothing is just given to you. You have to do the work and read it, and you have to understand how Mervyn Peake kind of writes. It's a little on the choppier side. It's reminiscent of that novel that I read by Annie Proulx, The Shipping News. I think it's like along the same lines of just like, it's very uniquely done, but it will put you off. It's a little off-putting. So you have to give it a little bit of your time and effort and energy to kind of like get the rhythm. But there really isn't a rhythm because it kind of twists and turns, but it's just still worth it to me, that you should try it out if you so choose. But yeah, this is great. And this is number 8 on my list. A wonderful, wonderful book. All right. So now we'll go to number 7. This is such a controversial little thing. Big thing, shall I say, this book is, people feel kind of meh about it. But for me, I love it. I thought it was magnificent. I thought it was great. It did not bother me about the patriarch being who he was. But anyway, let's first show the book. Okay, so we have quite a bit of chunkers on this list. Any book that I spend a lot of time with, it has to be like a favorite. Like, right, it's over 700 pages this one is. Okay, I lied. It's almost 6, but still, I'm sure the paperback. But we have Crossroads by Jonathan Franzen, which is a wonderful Great American novel. I think people are going to love this as it ages and becomes less contemporary and more classic. This is wonderful. This is a great book. So this book was published in 2017. Oh, sorry. No, it wasn't. It was published October 5th, 2021. Who is it published by? Oh, FSG Books, of course. And it is considered to be historical fiction because I guess, 1971, suburbs of Chicago type of thing. New Prospect, Chicago, family saga, So anyway, this tells the story of the Hildebrand family. And the majority of this book is comprised of one day, December 23rd, 1971. And you have a lot of things going on in this novel. If you like drama times 10, and you don't think that you'll be put off by the ways of men and what you've already known about men, whether you're in a monogamous relationship with a male or whether you're in a homosexual relationship where, it's of course 2 men, or whether you're in a lesbian relationship and you can't stand men that much, you don't really want to hear about men, I think that this book still will intrigue you on so many levels. So there's a lot of critique around Russ Hildebrand, who is the father of this family, and how he is depicted in the ways in which Jonathan Franzen chose to write him. But I found it intriguing because, if anything, it depicts the true ideology and style of a man who's been married so long and how selfish they become and they can be, and how bored they become in their marriage, and how they look to other women to satisfy those needs that they feel like their wife is not satisfying. Also, the story with the wife, Marion Hildebrandt, and all the secrets that she held from her family, from her husband, from her children, and that she's still holding and harboring. To the daughter, Becky, who's the only daughter in the family, and all of the nuances of coming of age, falling in love, having to bear the brunt of a lot of the issues in the family, and being the bigger person, being made to do things that you don't want to do, having to switch over, change your plans. To Clem, who is the oldest brother, who is off at college and who is having one of those awakenings that one will have when the world that you are living in, the country that you are born in, is going through such turmoil, and you feel like it's your civic duty to go and fight in a war that, for all intents and purposes, has nothing to do with you. And then to the brother, the middle child. I don't think we can consider Perry to be the middle child, but he kind of is. He's having a lot of issues in his life. Psychologically, he is seemingly a genius, but also going down a spiral of drug abuse and addiction and illegal selling of it and all the things like that. And we don't really hear from the baby brother too much, but I do think that we will in book 2, because this is going to be a trilogy. It is titled The Key to All Mythologies, if I'm not mistaken, and this is the first book in that series, and it is a great start. I cannot wait till the second book comes out. I'm looking forward to it. But this book is very intriguing, very interesting from beginning to end. It held my attention, and I read it in the span of 3 days. And it was wonderful. It was great. I think about these characters all the time. I want to know what they're doing. I want to know how they're feeling. I want to know how the relationships are ending or being built, or what new aspects are going to come. I'm very interested in Becky's storyline. I think she's the main person that I want to read about more. I'm really interested, and I want to see what the family is going to do as far as Perry is concerned, because it ended off on this whole oh my goodness. You guys, if you have not read Crossroads, you have to read Crossroads. It's so good. And another thing is just it's so real. It's so true. It's so true. So although you're sick and tired of hearing about Russ and the things that he wants, it's not just Russ that has issues and problems. You know what I mean? And I want to know what's going on with Russ too. I want to know how Russ and Marion are going to work this shit out. It was just amazing. I liked it a lot. And I almost am to the point where, and yeah, it was wonderful. It was one of my favorite books of the year. But I'm almost to the point, sometimes I get so caught up in the ideas that other people have about the books that I find to be my favorite, that I kind of can lose sight of why I read the books that I read, or why I've enjoyed certain books that other people didn't. I don't know. I just start second guessing, I guess, my tastes, even though clearly my taste is historical fiction, a little bit of fantasy here and there. I like serious things. I like serious novels that tell real stories, that pierce my heart, and bring me so much joy. And I don't know, I take it so serious when people don't like them, and I shouldn't, because no one's the same. All right, so number 6 is going to be a Russian classic, which is titled The Idiot by Fyodor Dostoevsky. The Idiot was published on January 1st. Look, yeah. January 1st, 1869 in Russia. This is translated from the Russian to the English by, I have the Constance Garnett. Translation, which some people say that, she depicted Mushkin to be too childlike, Christ-like, I don't know, but I enjoyed it. I liked it. I was interested in it enough to continue on reading it. And it's great. So The Idiot tells a story of this character named Nikolov, But anyways, his name is Mushkin. He is referred to as Mushkin throughout the novel. So Prince Mushkin, who is a prince, and he is released from a sanitarium because he has these manic episodes, these fits and these seizures. And he's finally released because I think they're manageable and they're under control now. And so he goes home to St. Petersburg, and he goes and finds family that he otherwise has not really met before, but he is told that he has family there. And that is where all the bullshit begins. And I'll say this. I have to read more Fyodor Dostoevsky. I've heard Crime and Punishment was wonderful. And I forget the other one. I can't think of it right now, but people say this one is too much of the fanatics of Fyodor Dostoevsky and his Christian-based faith, but I absolutely enjoyed this. So what you get, of course, is a series of, once again, stories, mishaps, scenes of all sorts, where good and evil comes into play, and humanity and having kindness for individuals who don't otherwise deserve it. And it's almost like asking the question, are you dumb? Are you an idiot because you want to see the good and the best of people, no matter what it is that they do? And it's up to you to judge that and decide that, you know. Some key points that I have to mention is the fact that Mushkin trusts such untrustworthy people here, and he continues to do so as they plot and plan things against him. I found that to be so interesting, and it begs the question, is this book titled The Idiot because of Mushkin's vulnerability and his willingness to see the good in the most evil of people? Or is it titled The Idiot because he's actually dumb as hell? So that's something that if you decide to pick something like this up, you're probably going to continuously wonder, like, what is this book really trying to tell me? And that's the whole point in reading it, the conversation behind it, the many, many, many ideas that you gather from it, and also you wanting to kind of think about people that you hang out with, that you surround yourself with, and are they useful to you? Are they adding to you, or are they taking away from you? So yeah, I enjoyed this. I think about this all the time, which is why it's one of my favorites of the year. Okay, so now we're going to move on into we're in the top 5, guys. We're in the top 5. I think I missed some dates up because I think this was published. It's going to be number 5 is Circe by Madeline Miller. And oh, look at that. Is that like a map? Is that a map? Is that a map? Books with maps. Love a good book with a good map. So Circe was published by Little Brown Books in 2018. To be exact, it was published April 10th, 2018. And I've also read The Song of Achilles. So I read that years ago. And I bought this years ago, but hadn't read it up until this year. And I think that I started it years ago and didn't finish it. I didn't get far. I probably made it to like 30 pages or so. And I just think it wasn't the right time for me, and within good reason, because reading it at the ripe age of 32, it hit so different than what it was hidden on when I first tried to read it. This book was excellent. This book was amazing. This book is feminism, and I really, really, really urge any woman to pick it up. You love it. You will love it. It's phenomenal. So this is a retelling of a portion of the Odyssey regarding Circe, who is a goddess, also a witch, born to the god of the sun, Helios, and she has a host of other siblings, but she's completely and totally different from them. She does not look like them. She does not talk like them. She does not act like them. And so she's kind of ostracized from them. And so what she does is she decides to apply a lot of her interest into the humans, and she meddles in human life and makes connections with humans. And what she finds there is that they're no different, except that they're not immortal like her, but for the most part they have the same agenda as the gods and goddesses. And so she is kind of upset and mad about that, and she does some things that mad women do, and she's shunned from society as she knew it and sent off to Aya. I think that's what the island is called, Aya. And at Aya, she makes a whole fortress for herself. It is an island of beauty, of solace, and she is alone. And she gets visitors every so often who are men. And you know what men do when they try to come in and they see a vulnerable, young, beautiful woman? They try to do all types of shit, right? But what they find is that she is not a normal, regular person. She's a witch. And then she does what she wants to do with them. And the best thing about it is she turns them into pigs. And I love that. I love that. But anyway, among those things, this is beautifully written. Madeline Miller is a storyteller. Her prose are excellent. They're phenomenal. Once again, mesmerizing. And the story hidden within these stories is that of a woman who just wants to be loved and who wants to love, in spite of all the things that she has been through and dealt with in her past. And it is told wonderfully well. And I mentioned that it's a feminist tale because she does not settle for less. She gets exactly what she wants in the end because she decides to be exactly who she is. And I love that. That's exactly what I want. That's what I'm living by. And that's why this resonated so well with me. And I think of it often. Remember, the main thing about these books is that I consider them often in my daily life. And I continue to think about these characters. So yeah, wonderful, wonderful book. I highly recommend this novel. If you have not read it, I think that you should. It's amazing. All right, number 4. Another historical fiction. This book was great. It is Wolf Hall by Hilary Mantel, published in 2009. To be exact, when was it? April 30th, 2009. All right, so this is historical fiction. This is Brit Lit. This is London in the 1520s, okay? This is the story of so many people. You have a hidden figure no one knew anything about, Thomas Cromwell. You have one of the richest, most popular men in the world, King Henry VIII. You have Anne Boleyn introducing herself into the chat. You have Catherine of Aragon, the 20 years wife of King Henry VIII. And you have the Pope in here. You have the Catholic Church. You have a new church that's going to be started. You have so many things happening in this novel. And I think that it was told absolutely phenomenally well. I'm a history buff. I love learning about things that happened way before I was ever thought of. I watch a lot of history. I knew a lot about King Henry, Anne Boleyn, Catherine of Aragon before reading this. So I knew that I would be interested in it. I knew that it would intrigue me. But the person I knew really nothing about is Thomas Cromwell. Nothing. And so within these pages, you are being told about the character, the figure behind getting a lot of these things done, who is Thomas Cromwell. And so what I've read about after reading this is that the way that Hilary Mantel decided to depict him was more on a sympathetic lens. You know, she definitely seemed to have favored the mystique regarding this figure who is Thomas Cromwell. She was intrigued by the idea that he was able to work his way from being a commoner to a lawyer of sorts to being one of the highest regarded men in the court of Henry VIII. And it had nothing to do with his background and all to do with his mind. He was a thinker. He was a person who was able to really, really cultivate those around him, as well as get himself where he needed to be. Okay, so that's the interesting thing that you will take away from reading Wolf Hall. And honestly, the word choice and the language and the scene structure also that is in this novel is just magnificent. Once again, it's one of those books where when you get into it, when you allow yourself to get into it, there's no coming out of it. You're in a new world. You're in a whole new... You're in a new world if you decide to read this, and it was just great. It was great. It wasn't boring. I think that was the main thing. It was just like, I heard so much about this, and a couple of my favorite booktubers read this and they enjoyed it so much, and so a lot of the time before starting this novel, I felt that it would be too much for me, or it would go over my head, or It's just little things that you consider when you are a person like me who overthinks a lot of the times, and forgets what you've done in your past and how you've studied in the past. And so, but this was a joy. This was also just a joy. It wasn't too deep or too hard for me. It was a joy to read. It was interesting. I was getting a taste of history, more in depth, and yeah. And I had already read Bring Up the Bodies, which was the second installment, which you don't have to read them one after the other. You could definitely read them however you want, but I already read that. And so a part of me really wanted to go back and do this one. It's so much longer, you know what I mean? So that can kind of deter you from your goal a little bit. But anyways, all in all, it was a great book. Wonderful book. And this version sits at 604 pages. So it's a tome, but it's great. And it's worth your time, and I highly recommend it. All right, so what book was that? That was number 4? Oh my gosh. I feel like I've been talking for so long. Anyway, next up we have Beloved by Miss Toni Morrison, my absolute favorite. There's a lot to say about this. Oh my goodness. It's just, I don't know. And I read a lot of Pulitzer Prize winning books this year as well. Toni Morrison is my boo-boo sleep. Hey, Stinkapoo. Hey, Stinkapoo. I'm gonna leave him alone. He is laid out, y'all. Oh, Getting a Cab was the best thing ever. So, Beloved. Okay, let's go back to published date. So, Beloved was published September 16th, 1987. This is considered to be historical fiction and magical realism. All right, so Beloved tells the story of Setha. Setha is a slave, but she's an ex-slave when the book starts. She ran away from her plantation, which was called Sweet Home. She ran away to Ohio. And it tells a story of one of the children that she lost when she was at Sweet Home. And that's why the book is called Beloved, because she is haunted by the ghost of her daughter, Beloved. And what you get is a story of heartbreak and healing, if you want to look at it that way. And the survival skills and tactics that one has to unmask in order to make it through a life that seemingly is not worth living. And through that, you get the beautiful writing and imagery that Toni Morrison produces. So with Beloved, I have a vlog. A lot of these books that are my absolute favorite, I'm going to link the videos to them below so that you can get really an in-depth idea of my thought process when I was reading through it. Because this is a tough one. It really is hard. There's a lot of scenes in here that are really difficult to read. And so I don't like watching people who have read this book and they don't have a lot to say about it. And I think I should be a little bit more open to that, because a lot of the experiences that are spoken of and talked about, none of us have been through or lived through. But there's so much trauma that is passed down in the Black community based on what our ancestors went through, that it resonates with us still to this day. I cannot imagine what it's like to be a slave, but my life should be better than what it is. But I'm a minority and I'm a Black woman, and so my existence is frowned upon still to this day. So there's things like that in here that resonate with me, or my love life, or the love life of Setha and Paul D, or Setha and her other husband, you know what I mean, and things of that nature that come into play and fruition in my life, you know. And it's just like, those are the reasons why reading Black literature and Black thought in general, especially good literature, can be hard and can be painful. And because there's a lot of things that come up in these books that you just don't want to admit still ring true. And so that's why I kind of shy away a little bit from certain things, certain books. They're just really hard to read. And I'm also very critical of other people who read certain things but are unable to convey the feelings that I feel like they should, especially from something so powerful as this. So I'm going to leave you with the vlog. I'm going to tag it above, and I'll leave a link below in the event that you are interested enough to see my more detailed and in-depth thoughts as to why this is one of my most favorite books of the year. All right. It's not number one because I have to also mention that it wasn't a joy to read that. Beloved was not joyful. And I read for joy, knowledge too, but for joy, for escape, and things of that nature, for happiness. That wasn't a happy book, but it was a good book. All right, and these two books here. So the next book deserves to be here. Oh my goodness. We have Lonesome Dove by Larry McMurtry. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful book. This is amazing. Lonesome Dove was first published, guess what? January 1st. What is God? This is January 1st 3 times. What is going to happen January 1st for me, for Diamond Monet? My name is Diamond Monet. What's going to happen for me on January 1st? But Lonesome Dove was published January 1st, 1985. This is historical fiction and also a Western. Diamond read a Western and it was wonderful. Yeah. So this book tells the story of Augustus and Cal. Woodrow Cal, and Augustus. What's Augustus' last name in here? I forgot. But they go by Cal and Augustus, who are two, they were Texas Lone Rangers, turned, like, y'all, he be knocked out. I wish I could take the camera off of the tripod and show y'all how sleep he be. Like, he be like so knocked out, y'all. He be laid out. I'm gonna take a picture, or try to at least, or do a video. Oh, I woke you up. All right, I woke him up. But Lonesome Dove tells the story of Cal and Augustus. What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? Of Cal and Augustus, who are two Texas Rangers who live in Texas. Of course, duh. And but they're no longer Rangers by the time we get to Lonesome Dove. Mind you, this is a quartet. I think it's like 4. It's either 4 or 5. I think it's just 4. But this is the first book in the series, but it's not chronological. It was just the first one that Larry McMurtry wrote. And I think off of the success of this, he decided, like, I got a lot of more stuff I can put Cal and Augustus through that you guys can read. So then you have the next book in the series called Comanche Moon, which takes place before Lonesome Dove takes place, but it's second in the series. You see what I'm saying? So anyway, with Lonesome Dove, it is their life after they're Texas Rangers, and they're now cowboys. And so they have some friends come to town, and they're speaking about Montana and how Montana is like this new part of the United States. It's a lot. You just go and claim land. It's going to be a new frontier. It's going to be great, beautiful, beautiful land where you can like harvest and have cattle and da da da. And so that really intrigues Cal on another level, and he wants to set out and have one last adventure with his homeboys or whatever. And so he has to talk Augustus into it. Augustus is just fine being in Texas, and he goes ahead and he's like, okay, fine. You know what? We'll go for a last hoorah and we'll settle in Montana. And so there goes the journey. So they round up a bunch of boys, some old friends who used to work with them as Rangers, some cowboys. They get them all together, and they go on their journey from Texas to Montana. These are months. You're with these characters for months. And on top of being with them, you're also going to become connected with so many other people from so many different walks of life. And all of their stories are going to connect at some particular point in the novel. Wow. I don't know what's really going on here. Somebody's in trouble. But anyways, all the stories are going to initially, they're going to come together, they're going to connect. And it's going to be so like, what? It's like gut punchy moments in here. There's love in here. There's intrigue in here. There's mystery. There's so much crime. This is excellent. This is a phenomenal book. It's an epic, and it's great. It's like, well, it's not epic because it's not told over the span of 50, 30, 100 years, but it's epic in the way that it's super long and they go on a journey. But the main reason why this is number 2 is because of the most endearing nature of this novel and a lot of Larry McMurtry's novels. And I only know because a lot of his novels have become movies. So for example, I hadn't seen Lonesome Dove, but I've seen Terms of Endearment. I've seen The Last Picture Show. It's something else I've seen that Larry McMurtry wrote. I've seen Brokeback Mountain. He's a phenomenal writer, but in movie form, his books come to life so well. So imagine when you finally decide to pick up one of Larry McMurtry's books. It's like ain't nothing I've ever imagined that I would read and enjoy on such a high level. And I regard him so highly that I'm willing to read anything that he writes. So whenever I come across a Larry McMurtry, especially in a used secondhand bookshop, it's an automatic buy for me. And I think anyone who has not read Lonesome Dove yet, you are in for a treat. This book was a treat. This book was a gift. It is so good, y'all. It is so good. And it's worth the 2 weeks that it took me to read it. It is worth it. It's great. And so, yeah, I urge you to go ahead and read this if you have not. It's wonderful. All right. And the number 1 book that I cannot get out of my head. All right. This book has been on my mind since January. This is another one. Along with Cold Mountain, I also read this book in January. I read this book right after I read Cassandra at the Wedding. And I loved Cassandra at the Wedding, but Cassandra at the Wedding could not be in my top books of 2024 because I read Cassandra at the Wedding December 29th. And I finished it on December 30th. Didn't expect to, but I did. So I read that in 2023 technically, but I picked this up next. And this book is amazing. I would like to do a giveaway. I know I still have to send 2 books off, but I like this book so much, and that my favorite secondhand bookshop has one. I wanted to buy it and do a giveaway because it is my absolute favorite, and I think it is a gift. To give this book, it will be a gift to anybody who will receive it. And it is Medicine Walk by Richard Wagamese. Richard Wagamese is an Indigenous author who is from Canada. Medicine Walk was published March 4th, 2014. It is considered to be Indigenous literature and fiction, also historical fiction. Medicine Walk follows Eldon. Is it Eldon? Yeah. Eldon's the father, and Franklin Starlight is the son. And then you have the old man also, who is present in his novel and is here and there, in and out. And what you have is a 16-year-old boy who has been summoned by his father, Eldon, to take him along the roads of the backcountry in Canada to bury him in the warrior's way, which is a way that people would be buried who are part of the Ojibwe tribe. The Ojibwe indigenous Native American tribe in Canada. Where they are. It takes place in Canada. And it's also a journey of a book. Father and son going on a journey together. Two people who are only connected by the fact that one's the son, one's the father. They have no other connection because Eldon has not been a great person to his son, Franklin. He has not been in his life at all. He has left him completely to be raised by someone who is no kin to him, and his name is the old man. And on their journey, you find that there's so many things that Eldon went through that caused him to be this drunk, this person who is, of course, he's dying. Eldon is dying of cirrhosis of the liver. So he knows that he is on his way out, and he wants to be buried the way that he feel like will give him redemption for what he has done or not done and not been able to do in his regular life. So as he is positioned in this particular way that you are positioned when you're dying in the warrior's way or being buried in the warrior's way, he is hoping that he is going to receive some sort of release, and he's able to cross over into the other world, kind of sort of freed for the things that he had not been able to be free from in the physical world. And so on this journey, Franklin is learning so many things about his father that he should have, of course, known and Eldon should have been able to express. But hey, for all intents and purposes, we all do the things that we do based on the things that we went through in our past. Trauma is a huge proponent of why everybody is the way that they are. And so that's what you learn among so many other things in this book. There's so many beautiful scenes in here of the nature of the relationship, of the nature of the country, of Franklin as a boy, how he's being raised by the old man, the revelations that you are introduced to, or that you are introduced to towards the end of the story, and how everything comes together. It is just phenomenally done. This book is mind-blowing. This book is sensitive. This book is kind. This book is love. This book is just, it's great, and it's not even long. What is this, like less than 300 pages, 246 or 247 pages. This book is worth your little afternoon. You will be done with this book. You will cry. You will laugh. It is just excellent. And from the moment I finished this book in January, I've thought about it some parts of every month up until now. Today is December 20th. This book is great. This is my most favorite book of 2024, and it is here for a reason, and it is worth that reason. Okay, and I highly recommend this book to you. If you read this novel, please come and tell me. You can come and talk to me about it on this video, or you can go to the vlog that I read it. I will put the vlog here, and I will put it in the description box. Or as Shelby would say, in the underneath the bar. But anyway, I love this book so much. It hit so many marks. It hit so many marks for me in the things that I look for in literature. And this is what I was trying to gather when I was speaking at the beginning, that I learned so much about myself when I curated this list, because it's just like, your girl really likes things that are meaningful, that are impactful, and that I can find resonate with me in my daily life. I like a journey. I like an old folk tale. I just love something related to the past that can connect me to my present And all these books have that aspect in them. And I was just like, you can learn so much about who you are through the books that you choose and the ones that you love. So yeah, I've thoroughly enjoyed my reading year this year. I read somewhere about 76 or 77 books this year. And that is counting a few DNFs, but that is a wonderful number. And yeah, I'm good with that. I didn't set a goal for myself, so I just think that is great. I'm not going to dwell on it because I will be back for other videos and we can talk more about stats and those. But I just wanted to kick off the end of the year book list with my top 10 books of 2024. So if you read any of these books, and if you like them or love them the way that I do, let's talk about it in the comments. Even if you didn't, whatever the case may be. Even if you plan to read any of them, just let me know. But yeah, I'm so glad that you made it to the end. If you did make it to the end, you are a real one. Thank you so much, and I love all of you guys, and I'm looking forward to watching your videos and reading your comments. So without further ado, I'll see you guys in my next upload. Deuces.